they're still on 1A.
No, they just moved to 1B.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah, last week.
Okay. Well, then there we go.
that's-
I should be getting notifications soon.
Nice. I didn't realize they'd already moved on to 1B. That's awesome.
Yeah, Hutchinson
Yeah, I didn't-
announced that. I think it was Monday.
Oh, okay. Nice.
And then the next week he announces that we're no longer having restrictions.
Yeah.
I know that we are having minor league baseball because I got that email.
Oh, so Trav's going to start playing again?
Yeah, but it's going to be for season ticket holders and partial season ticket holders, and you don't get your assigned seat. It's pretty much a first come, first serve kind of place, except you have to sit in what you paid for. So if you got the box seats, you get to sit in the box seats. If you got the general admission, you get to sit in the general admission. But outside of that, no.
Well, if you need me, I'll be the guy on the Municipal League terrace with my binoculars.
Okay.
So, watching the game from work. That is I think I've said this before. So the office that I work in now is literally right across the street from the Travelers baseball stadium. And as soon as I got the job, COVID hit, and I was so excited about getting to watch the games, and then I didn't. So it just pisses me off.
I don't know how many day games they actually have, though.
No, but I can get in after work. So I mean, it's
Well, let's be fair. Somebody with season tickets, so
that's also true. I mean, we are kind of the elite in Arkansas. We hobnob amongst the socialites. So,
well, as long as you remember to be humble.
I would not call myself a socialite because I have season tickets to the Travelers.
That's exactly what somebody who goes by the name Don Luis would say. With your little secret empire that you have there. Well, hey everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. If I got this right, this is episode 166. And as always, I am Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
Matt Trogdon.
And I'm Craig Lance.
Also, aka Don Luis.
Yeah, no.
I'm gonna change your name in my phone to Don Luis.
Yeah, or Don Louis, or any of those things.
Well, I mean, I know it's Louis, but it's better if it's Luis. Don Luis.
Yeah.
So I need you both to tell me that you all had decent and happy and just fundamentally good weeks, because my week was not. My yesterday got real stupid.
Why do you want us to start off the show by lying to you?
To make me feel better. It's completely selfish. It's completely self-serving. I just need you to. It's kind of like my relationship with my husband. Just lie to me and make me feel good.
I will say that today is a positive day because games for spring training start. So I'm excited for that. So.
Is that some kind of sport ball? What is
yeah, it's a ball sport. Yeah. Yeah.
I got
yeah.
It's the day that they bring the incredibly attractive baseball pants back, and we all rejoice.
I mean, everybody has their reasons for watching, I guess.
Swing batter. All right. Well, it makes me. I mean, Matt needs to answer my question before I can move on. I need to know that Matt also had a decent week.
I did have a decent week. It was a good week, especially coming off of the week we had prior.
Nice.
It's a nice rebound.
Very cool. That is happy making. I did not have a great week. So yesterday was really stupid, and I'll be very brief, but. At one moment I found out that my bank account got hacked, and somebody in Europe tried to spend $500 on face masks, and not like COVID face masks, but make your skin shiny, day at the spa face masks. And my bank caught it and shut it off. Of course, when they shut it off on the day that I realized that I had tire issues and needed to take my car and get $900 worth of tires. My car. Yeah. So yesterday was dumb, but there was a little sliver of happy making. In the mail, I received the page of the Immortal Hulk that I ordered. So I now own a piece, a legitimate piece of this really cool run, and that made me happy. Despite the
fact that's the Joe Bennett art, right?
It is. So it is the Joe Bennett art.
I had to try and throw a wrench in that. I'm sorry.
I
because I'm an a-hole.
you are, well, I mean, kind of. I ordered it. I ordered it prior to, the big kerfluffle, finding out that Joe Bennett was not so nice of a person. But it's still a beautiful page, and it is
a beautiful page.
It's actually the inks. So this is the page that got published. So made me feel.
Hey, Matt, I know you share a first name with another like paranoid Matt we know, but if you put a picture on Zoom, the internet's not going to turn you into the CIA.
I don't know how to do a picture on Zoom. I don't know how that works.
To be fair, I don't either. Mine just pulled mine from Facebook.
Yeah, it's creepy to me.
So I went into settings, and so for those of you, we're this little behind the scenes baseball. We record this via Zoom. I actually had to go in and like put mine as my thumbnail because that way when I do like my little professional meetings and stuff for college or my job, it's a picture of me in a suit, and not like whatever weird like me chasing my dog picture is on Facebook. So, which is a really ridiculously cute picture of me chasing my dog, by the way.
Yeah,
it's friggin' adorable. So, all right. Well, the spice is flowing as they speak. Now that the great thaw has set in, Arkansas is no longer an ice cube, and we got our comic books flowing back in. I did that just for Matt. Did that just for him. Comic books are back. We spent about a week with everything delayed and stuff, and it was no fun for anybody. Not that any of us really had time to read anyway. What with trying to deal with a blizzard. But did you guys get to read any really cool comics this past week? Drop a short stack on me. Tell me 3 things you enjoyed or that you read. You didn't even have to enjoy them.
I'll go. I read Second Coming, Only Begotten Son, #2 by Mark Russell and Richard Pace. This issue, as all of the issues have done, made me laugh out loud. Did you guys read this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was so funny.
It's literally the next thing on my stack to be read.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I won't say anything, but man, there are just laugh out loud moments in it, especially in response to organized religion. I read Family Tree #11 by Image Comics, Jeff Lemire and Phil Hester. This is the penultimate. Is that how you say it? Penultimate?
Yep.
Comic in the series. There's one more left, and we find out how the world ended because of the trees. And then I read Nailbiter Returns #10, also by Image Comics, Joshua Williamson and Mike Henderson. This is the finale of the second Nailbiter series, and we got a big surprise at the end of this that there's actually going to be a third series set in this world called Son of Nailbiter. So I highly recommend you pick up the first 2 series and read them because they are good horror fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, Matt. What about you, buddy?
I read from Marvel Comics, Maestro #2. This one's written by Peter David with art by Javier Pena and Herman Peralta. I'm so glad Peter David is writing this. Peter David is so dependable as a writer. Mm-hmm. He makes this even better than it really should be. This is a great series. I'm really digging this series. It's so far, I'm liking this one much better than the first Maestro series he did. And I like that one too. But this one's even more compelling to me. Also, I read from Dynamite, Red Sonja #24. This is the last book in the series that Mark Russell has been writing. The art is Alessandro Miralco. So that's it for him and Red Sonja. Good run, wrapped it up very well. I recommend it. And from Image Comics, I read #5 from the Scumbag series. This is the Rick Remender series. This issue, the artist was Wes Craig. So to summarize what happened in this one, there was the main character had a Grinch moment. His heart grew 10 times that day.
See, when somebody says Grinch moment, I don't think of heart grown. But I get the reference.
What do you think of?
Oh, I think of being a complete and total a-hole that wants to, steal the presents from the kids.
That's what he is. Then he had,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's what I mean by a Grinch moment.
He had the redemption Grinch moment. I just don't think of that when somebody says that, but I totally, like I said, get the reference.
Strangeness abides in your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for the input.
Damn.
Yeah, well, damn, man, I'll just shut up.
He's treating you like he treated me last week.
Who's like, Craig's like, I don't get it. Okay, I get it.
All right. So Craig and I, our brains are traveling similar circuitries because I also put the family tree number 11 on my little short stack. This is a fun series. The second half of this arc is completely and tonally different from the first half. And it's something that Jeff Lemire is really good at doing. He did the same thing in the series about the Black Barn. I
think it's called Black Barn.
And it's called Gideon Falls.
Gideon Falls. Yeah. So like the first part of that arc completely flips, like just from one issue to the next, it opens up a whole new world, and it does something very similar in Family Tree. But I really like this story because it's everything about it is about family. Your quote unquote heroes, they're dealing with family. Your villains, your bad guys, family. It all is rooted to people trying to make up for the loss of family. And I think that's a really cool concept. And, and I love Phil Hester, so I can just look at this all day long. Next on my short stack, jumping over to the House of Ideas. Are you guys both still reading Thor?
Never was.
Oh yeah, no, I'm reading it.
Oh man, I
didn't read this week's issue, but I am reading it.
Okay, well, I'm not going to spoil things for you just because it's fun, but it ties into the if you read the issue before, you know that our favorite Asgardian amphibian is in this book. Donny Cates is just doing some really, really fun things with both the history of the character, the character of Donald Blake. Essentially, he's gone insane. Like this whole time that he's been out of the picture, where they quit doing this, pretending like Thor was body swapping with another figure. He's been hanging out in a little pocket world underneath the world tree that was supposed to be great and make him feel good and not realize that he was not on Earth. Kind of a cruel joke, if you will. But while he was there, he started realizing what was going on and he went insane and kind of murdered everybody. But now he's back in the real world, and Donald Blake is a psychopath, and he's trying to just destroy everything that has to do with Asgard. And essentially it's payback for all the years that they took him from his life. And on some level you can understand that, except for the murder part.
This is what happens when someone writes Thor that actually likes the character.
Oh, it's so good. I'm going to ignore the jab that you just did, but it is in fact good. But Throg and Lockjaw, the dog, are in this. Or I say dog, he's a inhuman, and they are having to help fight Donald Blake. And it's Throg, so it's fun, it's awesome. And then last but certainly not least on my book, and I know you guys are probably going to disagree with me on this, and that's okay, that's fine, it takes all kinds. But I really, really, really enjoyed the third issue of Batman Catwoman. I like what Tom King is doing with the timelines. He's playing on 3 different fields. And he suffers no fools. He makes you try to realize where the shifts are. But for my opinion, for my money, the transfers are easy. The transitions are fairly fluid. I love that he's playing with the Phantasm, and I love that he's kind of showing you what kind of influence that Batman has, even when Batman's not there. How he's still the focal point in the center of all of these characters' universe, especially Catwoman. In this issue, and I'll just say this just to entice you, you get to see Huntress. You get and Clay Mann draws Huntress just chef's kiss. I love the design, love everything about it. And she is kind of taking her father's place, as there's been a murder of a significant character, and she's trying to track down who did it, because look, it's still a murder, and if you know who the character is, you'll know what I mean by that. but I don't want to spoil any things, right? Because this is just a short stack. So yeah, go check out this series. It's for me, it's fun. Like I said, I know you guys aren't big on the Tom King, but no worries.
I can't disagree with you because I'm not reading it. So
See, there you go. That's how I
Yeah.
win. if you all will just let me know what's on your pull lists, I'll read other things, and then you can't tell me I'm wrong. It's how I cheat. See, that's a loophole, as they say in law school. So, well, all right. Well, let's move on then, shall we?
Yes, please.
Oh, man. All right. So, if you are a listener of the show, and you have enjoyed us for a while, you know that we always get together. I say always, most of the time, we get together and we read the same book, because it's kind of this. We can all give our opinions on it. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree, but we try to each break it down in our own little brains and converse about it, right? Because that's the whole point of having friends who also read comics and being part of a comics community, is to talk about what you read. Now, I want to say this by way of preference. There's no really good way to talk about a comic in detail without spoiling a few things. So if you'll go check the show notes that I always put in there, you'll see the timestamps. You'll know where something starts. So if we start talking about a book that you're gonna read that you don't want spoiled for you in some sense, then just skip ahead. It's you just hit the little button and it moves you really forward, because we don't want to ruin.
Better yet, pause the show, go read the book, and then come back and listen.
See, that's the kind of daddy advice we come to Craig for, because his way is better. It's that wisdom.
Yeah, I don't recommend skipping parts of our show. You might miss out on some witty banter.
There's no mic to that. They just absolutely would. But yeah, hit the little pause button. Go consume it. Because here's the thing: we don't want to ruin the experience for anybody, right? Like, that's no fun. That's not what we're here for. So this week,
I mean, I don't mind ruining the experience.
Well, that's because you're a monster, Craig. That's exactly what somebody who has a secret life that goes by Don Luis would say. That joke's not like, that's an inside joke that's not going to get old for me. Like, I love the idea of you secret mob boss. So this week we got together and we actually decided to read a book from about a week back, because delays in comics, they happen, especially when your southern state experiences a blizzard, and we were about a week behind. But this is a book that we would have spoken about if it had been fresh, right? Like, and we all wanted to. And that book is none other than it's from a little company, got a little stamp in the top left-hand corner. It's called Marvel. You might have heard of it, featuring a character that is near and dear to all of our hearts. That is the Hulk. This is the Immortal Hulk Flatline. This is a one-shot that came out of the brilliant Irish brain of Declan Shelby, and flowed through his hands into a pencil and made beautiful, beautiful art, which should tell you kind of how I felt about it. But I'm curious, just real quick, what's the 30,000-foot view from my cohorts here?
Oh, I love this book. This is great.
Yeah, it was definitely a beautiful book to look at, and the story was intriguing.
Show was filled me with all kinds of warms and fuzzies. Well, you want to talk about it?
Talk about it.
I suppose.
All right. So this book opens up, just going to give you a real brief kind of synopsis. The book opens up kind of like every other book in this line of Immortal Hulk stuff does. It gives you a quote to kind of frame the narrative. And this quote is from literature of the past. And this is from the great Yeats, William Butler Yeats, from his poem Death. Many times he died, many times he rose again. And that kind of sets the tone for this relationship of Bruce Banner and the Hulk that they're experiencing right now, where Banner gets to live during the day and everything is taken away from him at night. And his entire life is, and he kind of wakes up in a new hellscape all the time, because he has no stability in his life. When the Hulk's persona is driving the bus, so to speak, Bruce Banner goes somewhere in his brain, and this is a part of his psyche that is kind of a barren wasteland. You don't really know what it is, but he kind of just, I guess he spends his nights walking the desert, and it allows him to explore basically all of his fears and just realize that he's not in control. And so you see this as the book opens, and he's lost. He's just broken. He's in a desert. And as he looks into a pool of water, he sees the inner monster, and it scares the ever loving hell out of him. But he wakes up, as he always does, in a place that he doesn't know. The Hulk has deposited him, so to speak, somewhere around this little central area that he's kind of made his home. And he has to, find some purple pants and wander back to the little vestige of a life that he's managed to scrape together. My man is a brilliant scientist, right? Like he really is. But because he doesn't have his shit together, and because it's impossible for him to have his shit together, homeboy's like working in a diner. He's washing dishes, and not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, it's good work. He even says, "Hey, this is honest work. This is an honest way to make a living. I get paid under the table. I can stay off the radar of all the people who want to come at me and take me out." But he's a scientist, and this is kind of menial work. It's just something he can do because it allows him to hide. It allows him to stay gone. But one day, life catches up with him, and a person walks into this diner, and she's a little old lady. She's this, little old tiny elderly woman wearing glasses, and both parts of him pick up on her. The part of him that is Bruce Banner recognizes her as a former teacher, a former collegiate teacher of his. But the Hulk senses Gamma, because anytime Gamma is close, the Hulk kind of perks up on it. And this is weird, right? Because she wasn't there or around whenever Bruce had his accident. And so things are not as they seem. And so they have a little conversation in the bar, and Bruce is like, it takes longer than it was supposed to. The sun starts going down. Bruce has got to skedaddle. He's got to get out of there, or he's going to end up wrecking that bar. As he goes outside, he sees this kind of douchebag, scummy guy scheming on a girl who was at the diner and is not taking no for an answer. One thing leads to another, a fight ensues, and the last person you want to fight as the sun goes down is Bruce Banner, because of course he's going to Hulk out, go green, and smash some stuff. As he's doing this, our little old lady comes back in full-fledged like Gamma explosion. And like I said, the how she got gamma irradiated, she kind of explains that in really short order. It was really well done. But she's packing some power. She's got a punch, and she's here to talk to Bruce. Not, she's here to kind of, have a come to Jesus meeting with Bruce, who is largely kind of a scared little man inside there, and she's trying to snap him out of it and make him realize something. And so they have their own little battle. And she hits Bruce with a gamma train, which I thought was really cool. Because, it's a gamma train. She made a train out of gamma, and she hit the Hulk with it. It was awesome. All this comes to a head when Bruce realizes who and where she is and tracks her down. And she's in the hospital, and she's dying. And in a book called Immortal Hulk, a lot of these stories really have a lot to do with the time of death, especially these little one shots. And Bruce goes and he speaks to her on her deathbed, and she just kind of lays some wisdom into him that a former professor, a former teacher, a former mentor, and a friend knows that he needs to hear. And then, as the title of the book says, she flatlines. And that's kind of the end of it. And you see this very Steinbeckian moment of Bruce sitting on a rocky ledge, looking over the water while the Hulk's reflection shines back at him. I thought this was brilliant, which is not going to come to a surprise from anybody, considering my long and well pronounced love of Declan Shalvey. But I love the literariness of these books, like of everything that has to go with Immortal Hulk, because they're wrapping in so much. There's such smart writing, so much introspection goes into these, and it's really well balanced with the action, right? Like, because you are getting a really educated take mixed with really fun comic book moments where an old lady who is just riddled with gamma radiation slaps the Hulk with a freight train. So
Mm.
I thought it was really fun.
Yeah, I was checking her hand looking for the Green Lantern ring.
Right?
Yeah. No, yeah, it was, it was an intriguing story. It was kind of neat to see this former mentor of Bruce's that, comes back, knows what he's going through because she's also dealing with gamma poisoning and radiation and the effects of that. And to kind of come back as her life is about to end and say, hey, you've got to be a better version of yourself. There's more you can do. So, and of course the art's just absolutely beautiful.
Oh, his lines are just crisp, just so smooth. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Matt, you got anything you want to add, brother?
I don't know.
It was. What's that, Craig?
I didn't know if you were talking and didn't realize you were muted.
Oh, yeah. I've read a lot of Declan Shalvey's stuff, and I got the distinct impression that he spent maybe more time on this book than in a lot of the things of his that I've read. Each panel, it just looked like more work was put in per any given panel than a lot of things I've read of his. Also, it looked like he's a lot of these perspectives and the way these characters are set up in the panels looks like he is intentionally mirroring what the current team is doing.
Yeah.
He's also put in his own perspectives in a lot of places, but like the diner scene specifically, it's like, man, that looks like a mirror image. The layouts, the mirror image of what's going on in the current run. But these splash pages are freaking great, man. And it looks like these splash pages he did, it's like he's been wanting to do this for a while. He's been wanting to do, the it's me, I'm the big man splash page, or I should say double page spread. Man, that looks like a panel he's been wanting to draw for a long time. The way it's laid out, the purpose behind it. By the way, when he crumples the guy up into his own truck and punts it, that was hilarious. Oh my gosh.
He says going long.
Yeah, just punts his truck and then laughs at his own joke.
The scene right after that where he's looking at the little woman like, okay, yeah, tell me thank you now. And she's like, that's my truck, you asshole.
Yeah. Really, really good writing by Shalvey, man. He the writing on this, I don't want to overshadow, because his most of the time he spends his time illustrating and not writing. So to do both, he delivered on both really well. And again, the splash pages throughout this are so good.
Well, it's funny that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I did want to bring attention to towards the end of the book, these 2 pages where there's it's a total of 11 panels, and they're showing different instances where the Hulk is waking up, is just finishing the transformation right after Bruce has tried to kill himself. Shows Bruce, coming to after he's transformed from being the Hulk in places he doesn't recognize, on top of a house, on top of a roadside sign, in a pile of what looks like manure, in some random farm. Those panels were really good too, man. I really liked those 2 pages. There's just so much to read into those 2. So yeah, this book I expected to like it, but I liked it a lot more than I thought I would going in. I really thought it was a great little chapter in the current storyline with just a lot of really cool things to look at.
I love that you brought up those pages, because I literally had them open to talk about, because those pages were some of my favorite from the book.
And I think it's worth mentioning, how much we all enjoyed this book, both the writing and the art, given he's doing this in the middle of one of the strongest Hulk runs in the character's history.
Absolutely.
The artwork and the writing on the current run is the best on the shelf. I mean, it's amongst the best of the shelf. For him to jump in and do this one shot and pull it off and it be so good, I think that needs to be said.
Nope, absolutely. And editorial's done a really good job with making sure that anything connected to this line, this Immortal Hulk run, is just completely top notch. The one shot that Jeff Lemire did not too long ago, kind of the same way. Just really, really gorgeous and incredibly well done. And you don't often see that from Marvel. Usually they'll try, when something's hot, when something's a hit, they'll flood it. I mean, gestures broadly at the X-Men, but where not everything is great. But this, it's like, no, they are only letting the cream of the crop out. And one thing we haven't really spoken about here is Declan's colors, like his palette in this book. A lot of time, like the greens and the blues that he uses, and he uses a lot of those two colors specifically, but the amount of shading that he does, like the different hues that he produces with those two colors, and the way that he makes those two colors flow into one another, to create the atmosphere. Especially, there's this one scene where he gets knocked, did I mention he got hit by a train? He gets hit by a train and gets knocked into the desert, and it just lands, makes this giant crater. And the hues from that particular page, just the way he transfers the energy from the colors to the scene, that does so much for the tone of this book, where a lesser colorist would not have been able to produce the same thing, because I think they would have been more rigid. Like, he is not rigid with his use of the colors. They blend, they transfer, they swirl, they play off one another in this kind of refractory kind of way that is just, it's next level. And I've never been one to really like peak on Declan's colors. And a lot of times Declan has other people who color for him, but for him to just do like every craft aspect of this book and to just be at 10 on all of them, the man is just firing. He's just gone. Like, you can't, like, this is already one of those books that I'm putting on my, like, quote unquote best of the year lists.
Yep, it's definitely strong.
Yeah, I mean, as Matt said, he did a great job, kind of, I don't want to say mimicking, because it's definitely his style, but there were definite pages when I was looking at this going, if they wanted to get rid of a problematic artist they have on the book, and I know there's only a few issues left and they're probably in the can.
Yeah.
But if they wanted to get rid of that problematic artist, they have a guy sitting here that's very capable of taking it over.
I'd actually be kind of curious to know if Declan like wants to do an ongoing, because he doesn't do a lot of those anymore.
He's actually doing an ongoing. It was in this month's previews.
Oh, is he?
So yeah,
nice.
It's not for one of the big two, but yeah, he's getting ready to do his own creator owned.
He's kind of focusing on creator owned. That's smart. Craig, I'm kind of curious. So when I read the book, when I first opened up and we first see, his teacher and his former mentor, her design, the way she looked, I straight up thought they were bringing like Madam Web into this book. Did she remind you of Madam Web?
No, now that you say it, maybe. But when I first saw her, there was definitely a familiarity to her,
mm-hmm.
but I couldn't quite put my finger on it, and so maybe that's what it was. But yeah, even her design and the way when they're in the diner talking, and the reflection of the Hulk in her glasses, just all of those little things that were in this book are just absolutely just amazing. So yeah, I'm assuming that it had to be something like Madam Web or something like that brought that familiarity to me, but I did not place it at the time.
And doesn't like the Madam Web concept doesn't play into it at all. I thought, I was like, oh, look at those little round glasses. Oh shit, is this Madam Web? And then it's not at all. But it just, like, there was a very similar theme there. And she kind of plays that Madam Web role in a way. So maybe that kind of just was meant to take old Marvel fans and like kind of solidify who her persona was, like what her personality was going to be. That kind of subtextually, I don't know. It's a cool nod. But yeah, if you haven't read this book, highly encourage you to go snag it before it's hard to find. And it'll feels on those last few pages. It really will. It'll
especially waking up in manure.
It's a shitty life.
Yeah. Reading that, I was like, no, that could maybe that's not manure. Maybe it's something else. I'm like, oh God, no, it's manure.
No, it absolutely
Of course it is, because the Hulk has to leave him in the best of conditions, right?
Yeah. I was just trying to that was just a personal battle I was having.
It's a bunch of horse shit. Yeah. Because those two have to like they're almost childish in that way. It like it's extreme circumstances, but it is very much like little siblings getting back at one another every time. Like, oh, okay, you're gonna try to kill me by running into a tree. I'm gonna leave you on top of a Roxxon billboard. Like, oh, you're gonna try to chew up a bullet. Nope, cow shit. That's all you get. It's these two personalities that are constantly trying to just bitch slap one another. I think it's like it's a very facially comedic moment, but when you get down into it, it's like, ooh, that's actually pretty dark. It'll give you the goosebumps if you think about it too hard. So, but no, I love it.
Goosebumps if you think about it too hard.
It's the dark place.
Yeah.
Well, Craig, while you're really close to your microphone, why don't you tell me about a book you read this week that I probably haven't?
Oh, you may have, believe it or not. I'm going to talk about a book from way back in 1971. That's Amazing Spider-Man number 101. Of course, it's published by Marvel. And I don't know if you guys know this. Matt may, because of his huge fandom for the guy, but Roy Thomas actually wrote this book. Stan Lee was on assignment trying to write a script for a movie and had Roy Thomas fill in for him for this issue. And this book came out 8 months after the Comic Code Authority had lifted the ban on vampires. And Stan had told Roy that he wanted a vampire in the book like Dracula, but he wanted him to be a costumed villain. So we ended up with Morbius, the living vampire.
Oh, okay. Did you say it was 171?
No, 101. It
101.
came out in 1971.
Gotcha.
So as far as I know, this and the next issue were the only two written by Roy Thomas. And I may be wrong on that, but as far as Spider-Man goes. And Gil Kane did the art. Frank Giacoya did the inks. Artie Simics on letters. And it doesn't really say who did the coloring, and I couldn't find it, as a lot of these old books did. They did not credit the artist properly. I mean, the colorers properly. But the art on it's just absolutely, it's Gil Kane, so you know what you're getting. And he was the current artist on Spider-Man at the time, so they let him just do his brilliant work. So this book starts off with Peter, kind of goes back to the issue before, and Peter has tried to cure himself of spideritis, and instead has made himself more of a spider. He's given himself a potion, and he now has 6 arms. And in the next handful of pages, he tries to cover up his mistakes, and he ends up losing Gwen Stacy, and he turns down an easy gig with the Bugle because, of course, he can't be out running around with 6 arms, and people are going to know he's Spider-Man. So he calls his buddy Dr. Connor to see about using his summer home as a getaway. And since Doc Connor is busy working in Florida and has no use for his current home and, wants to reward his friend Spider-Man for saving his life, of course he can use his home. So when Peter gets there, it is all boarded up and looks a bit like a Scooby-Doo haunted house. Uh, Spider-Man just goes in and he starts working on trying to cure himself. But little does he know that on a boat just offshore, there's a dark passenger on board. And on the boat, the crew has started to blame this passenger who hides in the dark. They're blaming him for the death of their captain, and now they're coming after him. And so he hides, and then that evening, he, of course, drains them of all of their blood and kills them, and then swims ashore and finds this abandoned-looking home. And, of course, it's the one that Spider-Man is staying in. So that evening, him and Spider-Man get into a fight, and they're fighting. And just as Morbius has Spider-Man beaten and is about to kill him, Doc Connor is just a little bit stressed out that why does Spider-Man need my house? And he shows up to check on Spider-Man and interrupts Morbius from killing Spider-Man. The stress causes Connor to turn into the Lizard. And he tells Morbius that Spider-Man is my enemy and I alone will kill him. How does it turn out? Well, you'll have to read Amazing Spider-Man 102 to get to the conclusion. But, again, I got this in one of the facsimile editions.
Mm-hmm.
And, how I love those books. And it's always just fun to go back and read these origin stories, these first appearances that they do. There's a reference when Spider-Man's talking about having 6 arms. And he says, some of the pop culture superheroes like the Spirit and Batman, they try to hide in the shadows and scare people. I guess that's what I'm going to have to do from now on. So that was kind of funny to have that reference to Batman in there, especially.
So you know what I'm going to ask, right? Since you're talking about a facsimile edition.
Sure.
Were there any cool ads and stuff that kind of took back? What were some of your favorite throwback ads that you found?
There was one for the bodybuilding where it had Mr. Universe with all the different stretching techniques and all of this with the different cables you pull on. Of course, there's always the ads for the different stores selling comic books. But the Mr. Universe was the one that stood out to me in this one.
Nice. It's like jumping in a machine, man. It's really
cool. They didn't have the one for the Green Army men that they usually had in the comics back then. But in fact, one time my brother, this is a funny little story, my brother ordered some when we were kids out of a comic book. He ordered some Green Army men, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my brother's name is John Smith, which of course is super common. Well, the lady that managed the apartments we live in, her husband was named John Smith. And, he was a convalescing old man, didn't have all of his mental facilities and all of that. Well, they actually shipped the Green Army men. She ended up with them. And her husband was sitting there just playing with them like that. He had ordered.
That's funny.
Yeah. I mean, of course, she gave them to my brother, but yeah. It was kind of funny at the time, especially.
Those things are hard to find now. If you can find those little Green Army men in good shape, I wonder if they're, I'm not, you're going to send your kids to college on them or anything, but I imagine you could probably get a little bit of money for them.
I don't know. They made them for so long.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you could even still buy them or not, to be honest with you.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, as a kid, we played, with them all the damn time.
Mm-hmm. So when y'all think of Gil Kane, do you think of his interiors just like off the top of your head, or do you think about his covers?
I generally think of his work on Green Lantern, to be honest with you, more so than, not that he wasn't great on Spider-Man and drew obviously some of the iconic Spider-Man books, but I always think of him as a Green Lantern artist. And, usually covers, because that's what you see mostly from that time.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I think he's credited. I was looking at him on a little website the internet provides, and he's got the most credits of any of the work that he did on Green Lantern. I think he did 85. He had 85 appearances between his covers and his interior art on there. I always think of him as a Conan artist, though, and it's because of the covers. Like he did a lot of the covers from that old Barry Windsor Smith run. And just some gorgeous stuff. He did a lot of the covers on those old Daredevil books too.
Yeah. So Matt, did you know that Roy Thomas was the creator of Morbius?
That sounds familiar. I mean, Morbius is not a character I've ever cared about in any way, shape, or form. So I never made a mental note of that. But that does sound familiar. Yeah, seems like I've heard that before.
Yeah, see, I was unaware of that. It kind of again, I'm not a huge Morbius fan myself, but this was a fun issue. Mm-hmm. And the cover itself cracks me up because, it's got Morbius yelling, "Fool, it will take more than a freak with 6 arms to stop a vampire." Just the typical, 1970s Stan Lee cover, writing. But,
cool.
Fool, you fool.
He says that until those 6 arms have 6 stakes, and then all of a sudden shit changes.
He's a living vampire.
That's true. I mean, stabbing still hurts.
Stabbing does hurt, yes. Which I also didn't realize that this came out after they had lifted the ban on vampires, because I always thought that they had made him a living vampire to kind of get around the whole undead thing.
Yeah.
So probably need to do a little bit more research on that.
Well, yeah, I have a question on that. And I actually thought about this when you first said it. I was always under the impression that Marvel didn't necessarily lift the ban. Stan Lee just quit complying with it. Or that's how the legend that I'd always heard.
No, they lifted the ban on the supernatural beings in 71. The Comics Book Authority did. But if Stan Lee wanted to write a book, he would just take the little seal of approval off.
Right.
Like, the drug issues and things like that where they just said, screw it, we're going to put out what we want to put out. So, it was just kind of like having that little warning label on music that you get, on CDs. It really doesn't mean anything other than it's a warning label.
Right.
Well, no, I mean, the Comics Code Authority would actually they had to change what they did. There's a difference between a warning label and, something that actually restricts what you can do.
Exactly, except for Stan Lee would just do it anyways and just pull the Comics Code Authority stamp off of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was saying with the history of it. I thought like Stan Lee, and who knows, it's one of those things that it's just kind of a legend at this point. Like Stan Lee quit complying with them, and once Marvel broke it, the dam kind of broke, and like everybody else quit complying because it was self-imposed, right? Like the comics industry made the Comics Code Authority, and so once they did,
well, it was in response to all of the shit that happened.
Oh yeah,
at the end of the 50s and 60s, yeah.
So, but the dam just kind of broke after that point. So it's a fascinating era. Anybody got any kind of hardline opinions on the new Morbius film, since we're on the topic, that Jared Leto is starring in?
I mean, I'll watch it. But, again, as Matt said, and I agree with him, Morbius has never been one of my favorite characters. He kind of boring, to be honest. He's just another, to be quite honest, he's a little bit of a Hulk knockoff, in that he's just trying to cure himself. He just spends every day trying to use his superior intellect to cure himself. And it gets old after a while from that standpoint. Not the Hulk knockoff part, but, just that's all his entire thing is.
Yeah, he's very whiny and self-deprecating.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So, yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I don't know. I still haven't seen the Venom movie, so I don't know if I'll see it or not. It's just not something that's on my to-do list, but it is coming out. So I felt like I imagine that has something to do with why they're coming out with this facsimile edition,
Well, there's a new Morbius book coming out. This facsimile edition came out. Yeah, it's all
marketing.
Yeah, you know how they do their thing at Marvel.
Eternals, just
Yep.
Just so happened. Hey, at least Eternals has got a good creative team on it. That book is so pretty. So, oh well, good times, man. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, because I didn't realize they had done that. So I'm gonna check that out.
Well, you know me. Every time there's a facsimile issue on the shelf, I'm gonna grab it.
No, and I love that you do, because it I always walk past that little spot at our local comic shop that has them, and I don't think about looking at them, or at least I wouldn't think about looking at them unless you kept bringing these things to our attention. They're really cool.
Well, it's just a neat way to be able to read these old key issues without having to spend a bunch of money to get the book, or to buy an omnibus or something that has it in it.
Yeah. Dude, I wish they would do a facsimile omnibus. That would be amazing. Like that would
just a bunch of all of Marvel's key issues in a facsimile omnibus.
Dude, think about the first all the Ditko Spider-Mans, like the first appearance of Spider-Man, all that, like done in a facsimile edition, an omnibus of that. That would be.
What's fun is now they have the the advertisement for Snickers and all the books, and it's sometimes hard to tell if it's the story or if it sometimes the art's better in the Snickers book, or the Snickers advertisement or whatever. But in these, it always tells you continued in 3 pages or continued in 2 pages. That's always kind of fun to see, just kind of a little throwback.
I always wondered why they did that. It's like, do they think people are going to put the book down if they turn the page and there's an advertisement? I mean, even when I was a kid, I thought that. I was like, why is this here? Do they think I'm just going to stop?
It's weird.
There's nothing in that last half of the book worth reading.
Yeah. I guess this story ends where Wolverine eats Twinkies.
Surprise the cover ending. Has this vampire looking on it, and I never did see the vampire. Maybe he'll be in the next issue.
Now the sudden this comic is about fruit pies. Maybe I'll put it down.
Fruit pies. Hostess fruit pies were a big advertisement in these old books.
Oh yeah, man.
So I have a theory on that, though, now that we're thinking about it. Like, if you look at some of those old magazines from back in the day, a lot of the magazines would basically have personal ads in the back of them. And they were called comics magazines. So, maybe they were afraid people would think, okay, the rest of it is just going to be like, adverts and personal ads and, weird stuff that you can order from.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about, mostly these were kids reading these at the time. There weren't a whole lot of adults reading comics at the time.
Yeah, he did say it was just a theory.
That's true.
Yeah.
Or just didn't say it was a good one either. Didn't even qualify. I have another theory while we're here.
What, that Matt should talk about a comic book?
I have a theory that Matt read something that was really cool this week, and he wants to tell us about it.
That sounds more like a suspicion, but we'll go with it. So I'm going to talk about 2 different things because it's my turn to talk. The first one is something.
Wait. Are you going to break the rules? Have you taken on Caleb's personality? You're just going to do 2 books this week.
Going to do 2 books very briefly because it's like I want to talk. I've been wanting to talk about these books, but they're not enough to talk about individually.
Gotcha.
Without making people suffer. That is. So since I don't want anybody to suffer, I'm going to talk about both of them now. I'm doing this for you.
You benevolent man.
In the early 90s, a 3-issue story came out from the Marvel book series. This is something they did briefly called their Marvel book line. They were prestige format books. Apparently, prestige has nothing to do with the actual content, especially with this series I'm about to talk about. This is the Punisher Captain America Blood and Gory 3-part story. The art was Klaus Janson. Writing was done by 2 different writers, D.G. Chichester, Margaret Clark, and then the colors were John Wellington. And this was done in the early 90s, right about the time of the image revolution. I'm guessing this was, I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking maybe this was some kind of reach to do something to retain a lot of readers they were losing, maybe. I don't know. That's obvious speculation. I'm trying to figure out a good excuse for why this book happened.
Now you
Essentially is what I'm doing.
you know why they revolted now.
I mean, this writing is terrible. It's way too text heavy. Most of the text is completely unnecessary. You get the feeling somebody wrote this that's just in love with their own writing. You know, the Punisher at one point, I mean, this is the kind of internal dialogue you get. He's facing off with a adversary here who's swinging a chain, and Punisher's internal dialogue is, he's armed for infighting, me too, flesh and blood, tooth and nail, and rage, cold fury, ever faithful by my side, since my wife and kids, rage, the perfect weapon, the soldier's ally. I take the pain, then I give it back.
Nice.
Scott, this is so awful.
It makes it better with you narrating it.
And
yeah.
You know, not to mention the Punisher is illustrated with a big toothy grin on his face as he's being hit with a motorcycle chain. I mean, this is freaking terrible. The art is good. Klaus Jansson's art, I mean, he's a great cartoonist. But the writing is just, it was a chore to read, way too text heavy, over explaining everything. This was not good. Not to mention the overall theme is the Punisher and Captain America are teaming up. You know, why editorial let that happen?
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Well, they were setting the wheels in motion for the future post Civil War when Punisher took on Cap's identity for a little bit.
So bypassing that comment, the ground of which they build this alliance upon could not be any weaker. It's awful. I mean, Captain America says at one time, you know, I really don't like the way you do things. It's like, no, that's not, Captain America doesn't just simply dislike what Punisher does. It's abhorrent to what Captain America believes. You know, this is just the worst kind of team up book. And this is a particular pet peeve of mine when people do these team up books that there's just like, you know what, two diametrically opposed characters, what if they teamed up? Oh my God, that's a great idea. You can just hear this kind of bullshit rolling out as in pitches. You know, it would never happen, but what if it did? I mean,
so true believers, go get this issue.
Oh man. So yeah, I bought this knowing that it was going to be a dud. But occasionally I'll do these. I've got them for $1 a piece, and they're time capsules. And this is, I'm like, yep, this is why Marvel went bankrupt. This is the kind of trash they were pouring out, and gives the medium a bad name. So that ends that segment. On a happier note, something I also went back and reread from the late 70s with a 25-cent price tag that it originally had. Marvel Comics Group, Conan the Barbarian, number 44. And I bought a few old Conan books recently, mostly based on the cover art. These are all stories that I've read before, but I didn't have the original publications. But in the cover art by John Buscema are just outstanding. So I bought a lot of these based on cover art. But this one in particular is it's an issue that features Red Sonja. And the interior art on this book, the opening page, is a very, very iconic illustration of Conan sleeping on some stone steps. Mm-hmm. And it's a kind of illustration that I assume has got to be studied in illustration school, because the way John Buscema illustrates Conan laying on these stone steps is a masterwork in anatomy. But anyway, it opens up, Conan is sleeping. It's a dungeon. And as he does, he basically, sleeps with one eye open, so to speak, and he hears footsteps, grabs the ankle of the approaching foot, and gets swiftly kicked in the skull for his trouble. And when he looks up, it is Red Sonja. She has been thrown into the same dungeon for her shenanigans. What's funny about this is Conan immediately tries to have sex with her in this dungeon. It's like, oh, I know how we can pass the time. And she quickly rebuffs him, and he's like, okay, well, we might as well try to escape then. I loved that. I mean, that's an interchange that lasts half a page, but I don't know, it was worth reading the whole comic. Is like, hey, let's have some sex. No? Okay, well, we might as well try to get out of this death trap. I thought that was amazing. So that was a lot of fun to go back and read. Just a, straight out of the box classic Conan story. He and Red Sonja are fighting two different sorcerers that have put them in this dungeon. There's flying creatures in the service of said sorcerers. It's all the Conan tropes, but done. Of course, Roy Thomas wrote this, done at its best. It was a great time capsule to go back and revisit.
And Caleb, if you don't have a Roy Thomas book to talk about,
bro, yeah. I was just sitting here thinking we should have did I get left out of an email? What? Like, whoa! You got
Craig and I just dialed into quality. So, what's wrong with you?
Oh, I mean, I'm gonna break the Thomas Arama. I don't know.
You would.
I don't know what to tell. I mean, text a brother next time. Shit. So you said you picked up a bunch of older Conan books. Are these things where'd you come across these at? Also, why didn't you text me about them?
Because I wanted to cherry pick them.
Well, I would have still let you cherry pick them. I just wanted to know. I like it when my friends find cool things.
I can't risk divulging valuable sources like this.
Okay.
So I got them at Kapow, of course, at our local. Somebody came in and sold, and a lot of any given issue that's in there, they're reader copies. These weren't copies people, took care of for a long time.
Treasured. Yeah. They treasured them by reading them.
Yeah. So, and I like buying, given that they're not just, haven't been chewed up. Yeah. I like buying old reader copies because that way I can read them and I can read them stress free.
Right.
Say, because otherwise I'm afraid to touch these old books, again, back in the newsprint era. Delicate.
Yeah. I know you don't love omnibuses. Do you get the Conan ones at least?
No,
okay.
I don't, it's not that I don't buy omnibuses because of what's to me an outrageous price tag. I just, again, that's like me. I'll confess, I stare way too long at the 25-cent price tag of this book. I'm like, wow, what a time to be alive.
Right.
You could get this Conan book for 25 cents.
Of course, you made $1.50 a week back then. So
yeah,
and gas was 50 cents a gallon.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Thanks for just twisting that knife there. Don Louise or whatever your name is.
Just wanted to put it in perspective. That's all.
He's also mad he didn't know about these. He cap you real quick.
I was actually there when Matt was looking at these books.
See, there was collusion. I knew it. I got left out of the text message. Y'all have a secret text message thread. It's a damn shame. Plotting against your boy.
It's called the Southern Fried Geekery Illuminati.
That's right.
Well, all right. So as to let me not jump too fast, too far. Is that Matt? Is that everything? You got something else you need to throw out there, brother?
Those are my.
You got another two books or anything?
Yeah,
that you need to talk about.
Hey, I've got what they call a baker's dozen of books to talk about during my segment.
I support it wholeheartedly. Hey, just one last time, and totally not because I didn't type it in my notes. Which issue was that?
That was issue number 44 of Conan the Barbarian.
Nice. All right. So just so I'm not completely breaking apparently stride, I do have a Roy Thomas thing to talk about. It just briefly. So by way of shout out, there was by way of conversation, really, there's a new biography of Stan Lee that came out this past 2 weeks. Some people are very happy about this. Some people are lamenting that it exists. It doesn't paint Stan Lee with a rainbow and puppies, but I think from all intents and purposes, it's mostly a very very honest take on a very complicated figure. That being said, Roy Thomas, the great Roy Thomas, somebody who was there, who witnessed a lot of these things, who has been recapping it a lot. He put out an article. I think it was Entertainment Weekly. I'm not 1000% sure on that. I'll have to go find it. Where he said, "Hey, look, like 95% of this stuff is actually true. Like the guy did his research." In Stan Lee, or it's called True Believer: The Rise and Fall of Stan Lee. It's by Abraham Reisman. That's the book. But he said the 5% that he gets wrong, he gets real wrong, and a lot of it's speculation. So that's just kind of a brief shout out. I just got the book in. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, so I'm curious to see how it treats me. But I'm always interested in. Stan Lee is a beloved figure. Obviously, I respect and trust what Roy Thomas has to say because the man was there, and he's freaking Roy Thomas. I love Stan Lee. And I would like to, I don't want my opinion of Stan Lee. I don't want to think poorly of anybody, but I also respect an honest take. And I understand that he was a complicated, complex, and sometimes problematic figure in history. So I'm looking forward to reading this book. But I wanted to just throw it out there for anybody who, especially, I know Matt especially loves biographies. He loves nonfiction. So I'm curious to see how this book treats me. But that's
that's something I'm sure I'll read. It does bug me when biographers speculate within that work. That is a real hang up of mine. That discredits a biographer when they speculate like that.
So again, I'll say this, having not actually read the book, I have listened to 2 podcasts where the author gets on there, and where he's speculating, he's not speculating in the fact that he's saying, "Hey, like this didn't happen." At least by his way of defense, and people who have read the book have also agreed with this statement. What he's saying is that, hey, you have Stan Lee, who has not necessarily been honest throughout his history. You have had these several moments of Jack Kirby, who has also told several tall tales. We don't know who actually did these things. We don't know who 100% created it or who 100% didn't create it. There very well could be a chance that it's a 75-25 or it's a 50-50, but there also could very well be a chance that Jack Kirby was the sole creator of these things, or that, we know that like Stan Lee had to have been involved in some way. We know that Jack Kirby had to have been involved in some way because he drew it. Where the author, where the speculation is, he's saying, hey, because these things are lost to history, we'll never know. You have to at least consider, you have to speculate that Jack Kirby may have been the sole creator of these things, and that Stan Lee, by way of marketing, put his name on it, or that Steve Ditko was the creator of these things. Now, that's his opinion. That's not Caleb's opinion. I tend to think that there's like a 75-25 split. 75% of the work was Jack Kirby, 25%, and a lot of the seeds of these ideas came from Stan Lee. And I think that if you go on and you read the different works that those people produced, you see that it had to have been a collaboration, because Stan Lee went to produce some stuff that's not great. Jack Kirby went to produce some stuff that was not well written at all. It's beautiful to look at, writing's crap, aka Fourth World. But that's just the honest opinion on that. That's what he's saying. He's like, you have to consider that all of the possibilities, and I don't think I think he has his opinions, and he sidelines more towards the, hey, I think that probably Jack Kirby did most of this, but again, that's his prerogative. But I think he's very obviously and very honest about, hey, like, this is just where I come down based on my research, but I can't give you a definitive answer. So I respect that in some sense. I'm like I said, I'm going to read the book and see how it treats me, but so that's my little pitch for a book that I haven't read. So just so I can get my Roy Thomas moment in there and not be completely left out. And because I can't let Matt be the only person that talks about 2 books. That wouldn't be fair to Matt. He'd be lost and alone on a little island. And then Craig would just wag his finger at him. So now I'm pulling some of the heat away from Matt.
And that's weak.
Yeah.
So I want to tell you guys about a little comic that you have. I know you have it because I put a copy of it in your boxes for free. and this is an indie comic. This is indie in the pure sense of the word. This is a DIY, made at home, um, little book that came out from a friend of mine, somebody that I've gotten to know through the comics communities. We met on the 11 o'clock comics forum, and that's Mr. Cam Hathaway. The book is called Clusterfux Comix. This is issue number 1, but it's like an anthology series of underground indie comics. It's much taken in the vein of, the San Francisco comics with an X movement. Like, let's get, like, this is gritty, it's dirty, it's DIY, it's folks sitting at home telling stories. It's not necessarily what you would call polished, but it's just pure raw comics. And I absolutely loved reading this book. It was fun. It was a quick read. A lot of the comics were one pagers. But by way of backstory, kind of how this came to be, this is the love child of Cam Hathaway. He's been a comics fan for a long time, and is a very, intelligent and well-read guy. But he, like a lot of people, and in some ways myself, has kind of gravitated away from superhero comics. He's gotten more into the underground indie comics scene, more so than I have, absolutely. But because I still love my capes and tights. But Cam also, like a lot of people, has had a very, very rough go of it since the pandemic hit. Unfortunately, and he puts all of this in the introduction, so it's not a secret. It's nothing that he wouldn't tell you. And he writes a comic about it. But Cam was laid off from his job because of the pandemic. He was furloughed, and it's been hard on him financially, mentally, physically, emotionally. And so he decided to take some of that and channel it and create this anthology and get in touch with some other indie comics folks and make something really cool. He turned something negative into something positive. And, the positive part of that is a way of working through things. I just think it's really, really commendable to be able to do that. A lot of people don't know how to work through anger. They don't know how to work through rage, depression, being scared, and turn it into something not only physical, but turn it into something that is expressionistic. And he's done that. And he'll tell you, and he does in the intro to this comic, that he is not a artiste. He does not have any professional training. He does this because he loves it. But he got in touch with some other folks who are indie underground folks that he'll, like, again, he flat out says, like, these guys are the underground professionals here. And I totally just made this book so I can see my name next to theirs, which made me laugh. You've got folks like Brian Judge, who is in this book, Isaac Roller, Vicky Smalls, Eric Jasic, Cameron Zavila, Miguel Elias Aguilar, Robert Negocio, Adam Eater, and Charlie Sizemore. All of them do little books, and there's several in here. The whole thing was fun to read. They're about different things. They focus on different parts of life. You can go on to the website. You can at clusterfuckcomics.com to pick this up. And you should. It's really, it's worth your time. I'll put a link in the show notes. But so just to kind of let you know how these things go, there's one page comic in here. It's by Brian Judge, and it's got this singular guy, and he's, it's in the time of COVID, so he's going through his checklist. Hand sanitizer, check, and he's got his little bottle of hand sanitizer. Face mask, check, and he got his little bottles of his little face mask. Rubber gloves, he throws them on, and then he says, "Great," and starts running down the sidewalk, and he says, "Now I look like the lamest Mad Max extra ever," which kind of made me chuckle and laugh. There's another one called The Late Shift by Isaac Roller. And if you're a fan of Clerks, the film, I think you'll find this humorous and funny. All of it's in black and white. It's all, very thin line drawing. This guy is a clerk at a convenience store, and he's a slacker. He is what he is. His boss comes in there, and the dude's just sitting around reading an old porn magazine or something like that. And his name's Todd. He can't even get his little name tag on right. His name tag's upside down, and so the boss is yelling at him. He's like, you're not doing your job. Hell, you just set the hot dog machine on fire because you haven't cleaned it. Like, what the hell? I don't pay you to sit around and do nothing. Of course, Todd's just like, well, you don't pay me at all. My check comes from some like from Exxon somewhere down the street. They pay me. And he's like, well, I can make those people stop paying you if you don't pull your act together. So, he's Todd. He's not gonna. He's gonna do the bare minimum. He actually grabs a thing of bleach and a Q-tip and goes to clean the hot dog warmer and just draws a caricature of his boss's face in the hot dog warmer. And this guy walks in and he's a trucker, and he's like, hey, he's decided maybe he'll put forth an effort. It's like he'll do some salesmanship, and he's very polite to the trucker, and it's like, hey, you want a hot dog? And the guy says, no, I'm just going to get this, this bare minimum of things. Give me a 6-pack and a pack of Marlboros. Then as the guy walks out, Todd notices the hot dog in his back pocket. And of course he's like, hey, you can't steal from us. And the guy's like, I'll punch you. And he just gets no respect. And then one of Todd's friends walk in, and, he's wanting Todd to sell him some alcohol, sell him a bottle of booze. And Todd's like, you're 19, dude. I'm not going to go to jail for you and get in trouble. And the guy's like, oh, you're just a bitch. And he reaches over and grabs a fifth of, bootleg Jack Daniels. And like throws him a $10, and he's like, hey, I'll at least pay for it. And Todd's like, $10 doesn't even cover a pint. You just took a fifth. You're going to get me fired, you piece of shit. I thought we were friends. And of course the friend goes and he walks out in the street and is immediately just instantly hit by a truck, just slams into him, just kills him. And Todd walks out there and he's looking at this young man, whose life has just ended. Some guy who was just going out to a party, a friend of his. And as he's watching the blood and the whiskey swirl together and go down a drain, he just thinks to himself, I'm so fired. Just it's one of those things. It's the book is rude, the book is raw. The different stories have way different emotional context. It suffers no fools. They're not trying to. Some of the stories, they're in the vein of, like, you think of some of these old underground comics, some of these old R-Crumb things, they're not PC. They don't try to be. They're not, as we think of R-Crumb now, they don't have necessarily the racial connotations for it, but some of them are sexual. Some of them are, they use language that you wouldn't see in mainstream published comics or anything like that. And then some of them are just weird. Some of them are about these little space aliens who travel around and they're slackers and they're totally looking for just some, a party planet. And they come across a seeing, all being, knowing eyeball. And they're just like, have the ability to ask any question. And all they really want to know is how to get to the, the party planet. So it's fun. It's an old cool zine. If that makes sense. And if you like comics by gritty folk, if you like stuff in the brackets of R-Crumb, in the brackets of Peter Bagg, then you'll dig this. If you're somebody who regularly buys like Fantagraphics stuff and who looks for things made by your neighbor, like literally people in your neighborhood who throw together these little zines and they staple them together, you'll dig this. So you can check it out. I forget, because I've gotten drunk since then. I forget where I ordered it from. They have a website. Again, I'll find it and I'll throw it in the show notes and I'll plaster it all over our social media sites, because I'm out of Facebook jail now, and I'll set it where people know where they can get it, because it's really cool. Not only does it, I'm assuming, I have no idea the financials of it. I don't know how much of a cut Cam gets. I know he's the mastermind behind it. Hopefully it puts some money into his pocket, especially knowing that he got, laid off and furloughed and all that fun shit, and has been struggling to refine work like so many people have. Hopefully he's getting a cut, but if nothing else, it's just great that he put this out into the world, and that he worked with some really cool people to put something neat to like channel that negativity and turn something positive. So Clusterfux Comix #1. I know he is planning on a second issue. There is a little ad in the back that says coming soon, Fugu Comics, Fugu, like the blowfish, summer 21. So I don't know if that's a thing that he's doing. But it looks like he's just really diving headfirst into the creativity of it all. And I fundamentally respect, support that, and encourage that. So Cam, should you happen to listen to this show, well done, brother, man. Seriously, like love that this exists, and thank you for putting it out there and sharing a little bit of yourself with everybody, because that's what art is. That's what art is. It's sharing of yourself in some way, shape, or form. And I found it entertaining. And whether or not entertainment was the impetus, whether or not that was the goal, it happened. So good job, dude. Seriously. So
like, I was going to read this, but you said it suffers no fool, so I'm immediately out.
bullshit. I think you'll both dig this if you haven't read it yet.
I have not had a chance to look at it yet.
But
I did not get my books till yesterday, so
no, dude, I get it. I got mine the other day, and I'm still like 2 weeks behind. But I did want you guys to have a copy, so I bought 3 copies, and I stashed one for you.
I did get it, and I appreciate it.
Don't let our proprietor of our local comic shop charge you for it.
He did not.
I'm joking. Obviously, he wouldn't. He would not do that purposefully.
Obviously, he wouldn't. You've met him, right?
Yeah, Matt Dykes.
Handling charge. Oh, that's just a handling charge. Handling charge.
It was a storage fee.
Yeah, I cut the handling charge down 50% for you. You ungrateful son of a bitch. You can just start saying that. Oh, thank you.
Love it. So I guess on that, since we're talking about Kapow, we should just mention that if you're in Central Arkansas and you are somebody, you're like, hey, I listen to the podcast. I would like a comic. Maybe you're somebody who doesn't read comics regularly, or maybe you read digitally and you're like, hey, I would like to put something in my hands, or maybe I'm looking for comics friends. Maybe I want to have a comics conversation with people that aren't around me. Check out Kapow Comics in your free time if you get a chance. Throw on a mask and roll over there. It's on Keel Avenue. I think it's 1600 Keel Avenue, but I'm not 1000% sure about that.
You'll see it.
Yeah, if you're just driving down Keel Avenue, you'll see the sign, because he actually has one now. For years he didn't, but it's a great place. We've all been going there for years.
And we are not getting paid for this endorsement.
0%. The only payment we get is each other. And
Yeah, I'm not even sure he pays his employees.
In comic books.
Tony's looking a little frail these days. He hadn't eaten in a few times. No.
Well, I know he eats at least every Wednesday.
That's a fact. So, well, guys, do we have anything else we need to cover before we?
I don't know. You guys each have another couple of books you need to talk about, or are we good? Or?
Let's just go through Roy Thomas's Wikipedia bibliography, won't we?
Hey, I can do this all day. Don't threaten me with a good time. I love you bastards, and I love comics.
Oh.
Well, all right. So go check out Kapow Comics. And in fact, if you wait a little bit, next Wednesday, you can go check out Kapow Comics, and they'll have some brand new shiny books for you that just came out on that day. Because
you're promising something you don't know that the industry will deliver.
That's a fact. On average, I'll say, new comic book days are Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and you can usually barring pandemics and catastrophic blizzards and end times, you can usually find new comic books at your local comic shop on Wednesday. And as usual, what we try to do is we try to set the menu a little bit. We hedge our bets. We take a wild guess, maybe a theory, if you will, that these books are going to be good, a suspicion if you're Matt. And try to pick a few things that we think are going to be worthwhile, things that we think will be fun to read, and just give you an idea. Maybe you can go look for them if it sounds fun for you.
Noxio the Clown. Pick it up.
Yeah. U.S. Agent #1. I'll never forgive you for that, Craig.
Oh,
I don't think that was mine, was it?
Selective memory.
Okay.
I don't remember, but I think that was a Slim Pickens kind of week. So,
don't make excuses for him.
If you gentlemen will allow me, I'll start this thing off.
Okay, do it.
By telling y'all some things that I think you'll enjoy and like.
You get one thing. One, Caleb.
Craig, would you like to do 2 books this week?
No.
Because Matt did 2 books. Yeah. I did a book.
I'm going to follow the rules.
Is it really the rule if you're only one doing it, though? I mean, I feel like... majority.
Craig's just trying to make his way amongst the dirty masses. Don't you know that, Caleb?
That's right.
He is an everyman.
I listened to 46 and 2 before we started the show, and my mind has been confused ever since.
All right. So go forth next week and you're going to find a book on the shelf. It's called Swamp Thing. I'm just moving right past it. Called Swamp Thing, #1. And there are a few reasons to pick this book up. None the least of which is the creative team that have already proven themselves in the Future State Swamp Thing book. And this is actually going to be the Infinite Frontier version of Swamp Thing. I don't know what that necessarily means. It's like a new thing for DC going forward. Infinite Frontier is like their big push now that they're getting out of this little 3-month break. But it's written by a guy that has really, really impressed the hell out of me in the past few months. He kind of came on the scene, and I haven't been familiar with his stuff until now, but I'm definitely keeping an eye out for his name. And that's Ram V. It's either Ram V or Ram 5. I don't know, but either way, he's good at what he does. And then with art by Mike Perkins. So I'm gonna just give you the real quick and dirty on this. Swamp Thing returns. It's going to be a new 10-issue series. It actually is going to have a new-ish character named Levi Kamei as the next Guardian of the Green. I'm guessing that this is the new version of Swamp Thing. He's unable to control his transformation. And he gets just thrown right into the harsh, unforgiving mystery of grisly murders committed by a supernatural desert legend. Levi must revisit his past events in his homeland of India and face the deadly reality of a ravenous new villain in order to comprehend what he really truly is, and who he's becoming. So this is a new era of global action, and horror is blossoming, and Swamp Thing will be at the root of it. So, and that's the well-written synopsis, paraphrased by me. Go check this book out. I'm curious, man. I loved what he did with the Swamp Thing book that they put out, the little 2-issue mini that they gave us for this little brief interlude into DC continuity that we've gotten.
Nice. Matt, what do you got?
I want to go last. Mine's a heavy hitter, so I don't want to steal your thunder, Craig. And I don't want you to have to follow me. So you go ahead.
The one that I picked out is sold out, so I'm going to have to move on to a different book. Noctera #1. God help me, I'm picking a Scott Snyder book, but it is a independent creator-owned book, which he usually does really well on, and art by Tony Daniel. And this is Image Comics. And this is Full Throttle Dark, Part 1, 10 years after the world is plunged into everlasting night that turns all living creatures into monstrous shades. The only way to stay close the only way to survive is to stay close to artificial light. So, sounds interesting to me.
Yeah. So mine's a big one. Now, this is a $20 book, but it's 24 full color pages of imagery.
This is the one I had that was sold out
by today's hottest artists, contributors like Jay Anacoletto, Mirka Andolfo, Jim Balint, Genevieve Broomcall. I mean, hot artists. And this book is going to be very deep and introspective on how the horror genre is a reflection of ourselves and the horror that's done onto each other in today's world. This is from Coffin Comics, and it is, as you guessed, Lady Death Lingerie #1.
I had this pulled up. I shit you not. It's on my screen.
So broaden your horizons and reflect upon your own dark side, and picked up Lady Death Lingerie #1.
And it is sold out. So if your comic shop did not get extras, you are just SOL.
Each copy comes bagged and boarded, so no free peeks on the shelf, you perverts.
Yeah.
This is art.
You know why it's sold out? Definitely because our buddy Frank Lanza absolutely has bought like 75 issues of this. I guarantee it. That
is hilarious.
Anytime Matt talks about a Coffin Comics book or a Lady Death book or anything out of the that realm, Evil Ernie, like Frank just gets giddy and starts like texting and he's like, "Oh my god!" Like he loves it. So you at least have one person who lives for Matt Trogdon's.
The scores of people are waiting for us to talk about Lady Death upon each episode. Let us not kid ourselves.
$20 for a fucking that's
24 full color pages for only $20.
Yeah.
I mean, that's less than $1 a page.
Are these the Bejeweled issues? I mean,
oh, I'm sure
Lady
there's some
Death imagery.
bejewelment in this. Yeah.
Hottest artist. It says so right here.
I mean, he's not wrong. Those are some huge names. I mean,
yeah.
Damn. Well, all right. While you're picking those things up and you're really wrapping it, grabbing, I'm gonna not do what Craig did because I gave him an opportunity. He didn't take it. Also, grab off the shelf a new book called Jonna, and the Unpossible Monsters. I can't tell you any other reason to buy this book other than it's created by Chris Samney and Laura Samney. And if you need an excuse to buy a Samney book, then we don't jive on a lot of things. I'm guessing he's Chris Samney and he's awesome. It's a brand new original series. So filled with action and adventure. Looks like a little girl named Rainbow has been searching for her sister Jonna for about a year. So it's kind of this all ages thing, I think. I'm not really sure. I don't see that. It's from Oni Press, so we'll see how that goes. But it's, again, Chris Samney. So,
well, since we're just doing whatever the hell we want to this week, you should pick up BRZRKR #1 as well. By Matt Kent and Keanu Reeves from Boom Studios.
We broke him, Matt.
What the hell we want to. All that talk about rule following.
Yeah, no, we're just, it's just rules mean nothing anymore.
Broke him. He just
lacks the courage of his commitments. That's what
no, we just we don't have rules. There's no reason to follow anything. We'll just do whatever the hell we want to do.
Hey, you guys,
5-hour episodes going forward as we just randomly talk and
look, I was the champion of structure of this group. And then Matt came in here with his let's do chaos episodes at the end of every month.
Yeah,
and Craig was like, yeah, that sounds great. And now that we're getting more chaos, now all of a sudden Craig knows what he did wrong.
I regret nothing.
No, the chaos to the regular episodes is where we've lost our traction here, guys.
It's chaos. It's what it is. You can't control it. You can't contain it.
We can go chaos every episode.
We know not what we ask for. Either way, it makes me happy because I get to talk to you guys, and that's what I love about doing this podcast, and that's what I love about geek culture, and I love about our social media pages, like our Facebook page, which you can be a part of anytime you want to. You go right, unless you're on Facebook jail, like I got put in this week. But you just go on there, you type in Southern Fried Geekery, you answer a few questions, you can come in and chat with us. You can even come in and chat with people who make comics, because we've had a few really cool comics creators join the group here recently. So come see what those folks are up to, some of which we have spoken about on the show, who just decided to come join us because they listened to the podcast and wanted to see what you guys were up to. We would really encourage you to do that because it makes it for good conversation. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter if you are so inclined. We are at SFG Podcast on both of those things. If you've got any questions, comments, or concerns, if you've got a comic that you made during your Corona sequestration, or if you just made it because that's what you do, you make comics, and you want us to talk about one on the show, fire off an email, send it to us. We're southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. Just to be honest, not so great about checking emails. Just throwing it out there. I do look at them, just not so great about being functional sometimes. But if we don't have anything, I'm gonna throw this over to the guys. You got any shout outs, any love you need to spread, or are we good to put a lid on this bad boy? I
think we closed it out.
Yeah, I too have no love to spread.
All right, gavel slam. No Moss love.
It's surprising everybody. Matt has no love to spread.
Yeah, I thought about that when he was talking about his first book, and he's like, "Oh, I just like this is just drives me crazy." I'm like, "Yeah, I can tell by how fucking gleeful you sound right now."
Yeah. Well, when I get my Lady Death lingerie #1, I bet I'll have some love to spread.
Oh, fucking knucklehead. I love you guys, and I love all of y'all out there, and so does everybody else. Love is love. It's great. We need more of it. So have a great week. Go forth. Love some comics.
Woo!
Hey, Jerry. Gotta get that little Jerry woo. Good stuff.